Rocinante marches up a snowy hill, desperate for hope. Behind him, a boy clings weakly to his body while his life fades in this snowy wasteland. The boy, Trafalgar Law, suffers every day to the point that all he knows is pain. Death digs into his body, flays his flesh, and drains life from him every single day. This is the 100% fatal white lead disease. The devastating tale of Rocinante's past, purpose, and the profound revelations about pain and freedom destroy you. The relationship between these two characters deliver a series of increasingly powerful gut punches, resonating deeper underlying themes of their relationship. I am here to show you those deeper layers, to pull you along while I explore causality, love, and trauma in the story, and how it connects to the larger one piece of this masterpiece. Their thread of hope, a famous devil fruit, pulls them forward. This fruit is a physical manifestation of dreams and desires. Eating a devil fruit bestows unique and powerful abilities that can dramatically affect the way someone lives. The Ope Ope Nomi, otherwise known as the Op fruit, is known as the ultimate devil fruit and renowned for performing miraculous surgeries and curing untreatable diseases. Finding this fruit and gaining its abilities appears to be the only way to save Law from the prison of white lead disease. Rocinante met Law while acting as the Corazon of the Don Quixote pirate family, which was a special officer position within the pirate crew. Remember this for later. Corazon means heart in Spanish, which connects to the Don Quixote novel, Trafalgar Law, and the penultimate theme of this story. In reality, Rocinante's conviction ran far deeper because, in actuality, he acts at the behest of the Navy, the government's military branch, as an undercover agent. Preventing his brother Doflamingo, the leader of the Don Quixote pirate family, from gaining power was his mission and his purpose in life. After all, he believes Doflamingo is the incarnation of evil, a force that must be stopped or unimaginable atrocities will shake the world. But right now, in this moment with Law, Rocinante's drive to save the world fades into the background. He was not here to save the world. At this point, he only desires to save this one boy. If he could save him, he could bring the dawn of the new era. This is how Rocinante's dream becomes a reality. The innate connection between Rocinante and Law is that of mortal enemies. Born a god of this world as one of the 19 families who created the world 800 years ago and ascended to a higher realm, Rocinante was a celestial dragon, and Law represents the enemy of these gods, a person of the D, which is shown in their name as a middle initial. But this is a secret name with a mysterious meaning and purpose within the true history of this world. Common theories about what the D means basically revolve around the idea that these creators of the world created a new dark era 800 years ago, something akin to night. But maybe D means dawn, or if you flip it 90 degrees, it literally looks like a sun rising over the horizon, symbolizing a new dawn and the beginning of a new era, meaning the D people are the fated group to bring an end to this world, making them the enemy of these gods. As if to emphasize this fated struggle when they first met one another, Law literally stabs Rocinante in the back in an attempted murder, and for literally no reason besides the tragedy that Law just doesn't give a shit about anything. This could be the first of 2 times that Law stabs Rocinante. See, while One Piece is incredibly serious and meticulously presented, it is also hilarious and ridiculous because the second time Law stabs Rocinante is through his heart. Law calls Rocinante's abilities lame. And the words are so biting that the speech bubble itself skewers his heart. I love it so much. Rocinante's response to Law and his pain changes everything. This is how One Piece breaks you. To thoroughly explore the impact of Rocinante on Law's life, we must revisit Law's past, and it is fucking brutal. Born in Favance, also known as Whitetown in the North Blue, Law survived the tragic and brutal deaths of his family and community, and everyone suffered the untreatable and deadly white lead disease. The rest of the world killed them. Humanity's greed, fear, and ignorance killed them before the disease, making their already bleak life a truly horrifying and cruel reality. Whitetown sat on massive amounts of a valuable resource, white lead. The town thrived off this resource for generations, but the powerful benefactors of this resource hid the truth of this toxic metal. Even though the toxin was relatively low in concentration, it followed future generations, building up in their bodies until white lead disease emerged and eviscerated literally the entire population at the same time. It was far too late. The government knew that this nightmare would happen, but they mined Whitetown for any and all wealth, regardless of the human cost. While this is incredibly fucked up, the true brutality emerges from the misinformation about white lead disease. It is not contagious at all, but the fear of this disease permeates society so deeply that even doctors flee at even the slightest possibility of someone having the illness. More commonly, the general populace kills anyone suspected of suffering this illness immediately because of their fear of the unknown. They are ignorant. This ignorance frees the most powerful organization on the planet to manipulate the people to their own greed and desire. After all, celestial dragons, the creators of this world, typically look down on the lower classes as mere insects. Due to this cruelty, his family, his community were exterminated like plague rats. Law hid in a pile of corpses to survive the genocide of Favance. His little sister, father, and mother died in front of his eyes at the hands of neighboring nations who feared these people becoming refugees in their kingdoms. This tragedy and trauma extinguished the humanity in Law's heart. Slowly, the disease eats away at Law, so he wants to return as much pain back to the world before the disease devours him. And while we want to meet someone who ignites a purpose and will to live in his heart, unfortunately, he meets someone who sees Law as an opportunity and a tool for their own desires. Like any crew member in Doflamingo's pirate crew, Doflamingo controls vulnerable and broken people for his own narcissistic desires. Law was so nihilistic and vulnerable, he lacked any real reason to live, so Doflamingo found the one person in the world that he could use to gain unlimited power. In his eyes, Law represented the ultimate tool, someone lacking their own desire to live, but also harbored the same determination to burn the world to the ground. Law appeared to be cut from the same cloth as Doflamingo. Law joins this group on a trial basis, but he learns about the blood rule. Anyone who hurts Doflamingo's brother Rocinante receives the death penalty immediately. And little Nietzsche Trafalgar Law was like, fuck that, I'm killing this dude immediately. Law sneaks up to Rocinante and stabs him, but he lives, and now Law believes he is screwed. But rather than getting killed, Doflamingo invites Law into his family, promising them that he will try to save his life and groom him to be a leader of the Don Quixote family. Rather than exposing Law to Doflamingo, Rocinante protects him, and Law cannot understand why Rocinante would do this, so he in return protects Rocinante's secret. Rocinante revealed to Law, in an effort to save him, that he is not mute from childhood trauma. He's actually pretending to be unable to speak. He is actually a devil fruit power user with the calm fruit, an ability to create spaces that block out any and all sound from an area. And while this isn't revealed to Law at this time, Rocinante's power enables communication between himself and high-ranking Navy officers. Near the end of Rocinante's life, he called his naval commanding officer, Admiral Sengoku, who asked, "How are the little ones? Is your harassment still failing to push them out?" Rocinante cared and empathized with these kids, more than Doflamingo could have ever felt for anyone. This makes Rocinante the foil for Doflamingo and for who Law was becoming at this point in the story. Meeting Rocinante opened a new path for the boy. He could follow the path of hatred or the path of love. Hate begets hate and love begets love. They're both cycles, but hate only takes while love can give something back. Rocinante's previous dickishness to the kids of the Don Quixote pirate family recontextualizes into trying to save these kids from the abusive family they've been groomed into joining. And in a moment of profound, selfless love, we see Rocinante's true feelings of the moment when Law attacked him. While pondering his relationship with Law, keeping watch late at night, when I heard the little brat say he was going to die, I just couldn't take it. You might have stabbed me way back then, but it didn't hurt a bit. The pain was all yours, you poor boy. And Law, like someone who suffers unimaginable trauma, is not sleeping. He overhears Rocinante crying for him, feeling Rocinante's compassion and empathy, and cries to himself in the most cathartic way, releasing a piece of his pain, and the gift of love begins to grow within Law. Doflamingo was the other side of the Don Quixote family. He was a textbook narcissist. He probably believed he cared for Rocinante and his crew, but he did not. He craved their love and their admiration, but he was unable to return it. He used them for himself, and Rocinante used himself for them. He lived selflessly, he loved people who deserved love, and he sacrificed himself for others to become free one day. Doflamingo created the blood rule in his crew because he wanted to be the only one allowed to hurt Rocinante, just like how he wanted to be the one to hurt and kill his father. After his brother Doflamingo murders their father for shamefully desiring to lower themselves to common people, the young Rocinante disappears. Doflamingo presumes Rocinante to be dead, but in reality, the Navy finds him and raises Rocinante to become a Marine. Rocinante returns to Doflamingo for his own reasons, to stop his blood brother from destroying the world, but selflessly, he changes for what appears to be a smaller purpose, to save a boy destined to die. What pushed Rocinante to forego his life's mission? Law is about to die of his disease. Time is running out. Rocinante slyly observes the children of Doflamingo's twisted family. Law spills his secret to the other kids. His true name is Trafalgar D. Water Law, a name his family commanded Law to never reveal, but his family's long gone, and Law's foot is halfway through death's door. Nothing matters, so his true name doesn't matter. Rocinante pounced Law. He needed to leave now. Rocinante and Doflamingo grew up in Marijois as one of the 19 families who created the world. They were born beings that looked down on humanity. To them, anything in the lower realm belonged to them. Celestial dragons could steal their money, their homes, and their families anytime they desired. These people being creators of the world likely mean that their families created the world government 800 years ago, but immediately preceding the creation of the world government is a period of history erased by the same creators of this world. This 100-year gap is known as the Void Century, and researching the true history and its secrets is one of the world's greatest taboos, which promises a swift and violent punishment. The D name appears to be connected to the Void Century. If the celestial dragons only created the world 800 years ago, maybe there was a great war where the victors created their own justice, condemning the losing faction and all their allies. Growing up in Merjois, the celestial dragons learn that the D people exist as the enemies of the celestial dragons. The two cannot coexist. This is why Trafalgar Law is in immediate danger within the reach of Doflamingo. This is why Rocinante knows he needs Law to get away immediately. He kidnaps Law primarily to immediately save his life, but also to search for a cure for his white lead disease. The world has so many doctors, so many fantastical mysteries and powers. There must be a cure in this world, right? Doctor after doctor reacted predictably. Rocinante underestimated the fear gland in their puny lizard brains, and their fear and ignorance proved more powerful than he could have ever imagined. And Law relived the trauma of being hated everywhere he goes, and in moments of catharsis for the reader, Rocinante kicked their asses for not even trying to help a suffering child doomed to die. The journey of searching for a reason and way to live pulled Rocinante and Law together, constructing a bond, something akin to a big brother or even a parent-child relationship. Rocinante shared in Law's pain. He witnessed and experienced the violent fear that shadowed Law's will to live, and in turn, Law started to become softer. He was dying, but there was a peacefulness to his fading life. He found some happiness for the first time in his agonizing life. The search for doctors willing to help Law turns out to be hopeless. But they find another lead from Doflamingo himself, the op fruit, one of the most legendary fruits, which in the hands of a medical expert bends the possibilities of medicine, launching their medical skills to levels that wouldn't be realized for hundreds of years. Rocinante's original mission fades away as something unimportant when compared to his self-determined mission of saving this boy. His mission of revenge for his murdered family didn't ignite the fire of his soul at this point. The truth shines in front of him. He thinks to himself, the next generation will deliver change to this world's injustice through finding true freedom. Law, get in this chest. We will meet up after you can escape. He lies, but this boy trusts him. Trafalgar Law cannot do anything but trust Rocinante. This is the end for Rocinante. He knows it, and yet he is happy and at peace. Calm. Now any noise you create will be silenced. The enemy finds him. They overwhelm him. This is the end for Rocinante. Not that he minds it, as long as it is for the boy. The situation appears hopeless, but beneath that layer of reality, hope and purpose permeate the inevitability of his death. With a deep, profound bond with Law, Rocinante clings to his life until the boy escapes. What does he say to him as his last words face to face with the person he cares for most in this world? And with a dumb, happy expression, he declares, Law, I love you. This moment culminates not only the emotional gravity of Law's life, but also the entirety of One Piece. Because instantly, when Rocinante's I love you hits, the enormity of the rest of the series crushes us. This is a central recurring theme at the soul of One Piece. I love you. I'm happy you were born. You are not alone. In a fraction of a moment, my mind recalled a mother's declaration of love at the cost of her own life. A final reunion between mother and daughter before complete annihilation. A father seeking affirmation from his son at the edge of his enormous life. A lonely child finding acceptance from his found family and being told that another person is happy they were born for the first time in their life. These moments thematically resonate with each other, but while reading One Piece, there becomes this lurking feeling that two specific groups are mortal enemies. The people of D versus celestial dragons. Much of the Dressrosa arc is about this relationship. These groups are fated mortal enemies. I mean, that is what is said, but one of the reasons I love Rocinante Don Quixote is because he challenges this fundamental law of fate. We see this through the love for Trafalgar Law, and while Law is special to him, Rocinante actually cares for the marginalized and for the powerless. His transformation from celestial dragon to a caring, empathetic, loving hero of the powerless shatters the social construct of this world. It challenges the reality we constructed in our own minds about this world. This is the ultimate gift that Rocinante gives Law. He loves him, and this love that exists outside what should be possible. Law carries the will of D. Rocinante, on the other hand, was born a celestial dragon, making them ostensibly fated enemies. This familial love that grew between them is something that should have been impossible, so the very fact it exists reveals an underlying truth that the celestial dragons are not higher beings. They are not gods. They are mortals with the same capacity to love as any other person. Rocinante proved these concepts are just constructs, something created to divide people, to create a caste system among the various races in the story. The D are not really the enemy of the gods, and the 19 families that comprise the celestial dragons are not truly gods. Love connects people in the world of One Piece. Romance Dawn is the first story in One Piece, and it is about building connections that will persist through the entirety of the story. Connections that drive characters at unimaginable speeds toward their dreams. Looking back, these are all declarations of love, a promise to achieve their goals with the freedom found through connections. After telling Law straight up that he loves him, Rocinante confronts his brother Doflamingo. He wants to tell him that he freed the bird from his cage. Law, who is behind him hiding in the treasure chest, unable to make a single sound due to Rocinante's devil fruit ability, waits in silent tension, completely powerless. In this moment, we recall the catalyst for the past of these two brothers. Rocinante experienced the unimaginable horror of his own older brother murdering their father in selfish, hateful greed. Their father chose to leave the realm of the celestial dragons to live as regular people, but he miscalculated. His family was in danger because these regular people hated celestial dragons due to the crimes of these creators that are felt by so many people. Kidnapping, enslavement, wanton murder, taxes to the point of mass starvation. They sought revenge, and this revenge killed Rocinante and Doflamingo's mother and constantly had the entire family fighting for their lives. But instead of trying to understand people, Doflamingo rejected their pain and suffering. He believes he is more than them. He killed his own father in cold blood. Their father's last words to his sons, "I'm sorry you had me as a father." I didn't grow to know Homie Don Quixote well, but his will and character transferred to Rocinante, and in that way, we do know him. These become the words that Law needed to hear the most in his entire life. Freedom never existed for him. He has always been caged, and that cage molded him into a hateful, deranged child, and now he's escaped. Trafalgar Law as a child was hateful and violent. He had little desire to live. His entire life burned to ash before his eyes, and his future did not exist. He carried the burden of an incurable and lethal disease, so his life meant nothing to him. Rocinante at this point played the role of Doflamingo's right-hand man, a mute who cannot communicate. Beneath the surface, Rocinante's sole purpose in life was to stop his brother from gaining more power. But one day, Rocinante started paying attention to Law, and before he knew it, he was neglecting his own mission to save Law against all odds. But why? I don't think Rocinante understands his own actions in these moments. After all, he hardly knows what family is. Family folded into the back of his memories at this point. He's experienced family and love, but his mission shoved that aside to give him the ability to portray his own brother, to live a lie. It turns out that your parents dying in front of your eyes, including your brother murdering your father, makes it difficult to be emotionally whole. Maybe I placed too heavy of a burden on Rocinante. I mean, I've basically described him as a revolutionary figure, but that's not really true, is it? The whole event, and in a way, his entire life exists as this tiny blimp in the world and history of One Piece. Almost no one knows Rocinante's story. His relationship with his second father, Sengoku, was maybe a bit shallow. He wasn't a great warrior, and he was a goofy klutz. And I love that Oda, the author of One Piece, created this quiet, empathetic, and silly character. Rocinante's name and character derives from Rocinante in the famous work of Spanish literature, Don Quixote. In the novel, Rocinante is a clumsy, silly horse, but more importantly, the steed engages in a task larger than its capabilities. Doesn't our Corazon remind us of someone who, despite themselves, moves forward with a goal and mission that is greater than themselves? Even using One Piece standards, Rocinante intensely switches between serious mode and silly mode, where he pulls out bazookas, slips on his shoelaces, and cries at just the thought of another person's pain. He is not more than human. In fact, he is the most human character Oda created in this world, so maybe that is why, at the very last moment of his death, a smile grows across as the thought of law in the next era enter his mind. A smile at death expresses the peaceful contentment burning inside Rocinante. His life and greater purpose live on through law after they did the impossible, overcoming an incurable illness and completely overwhelming a hate-filled heart with unconditional love. There's a moment when Rocinante carries Law up a snowy mountain while soldiers chase them. Law confesses to Rocinante he's dying. Rocinante pushes him to keep going, to live. Either you get cured or you die. This is the moment of truth, so be strong. And this is a flashback, so this is when Oda likes to be a really sick bastard. He twists the knife, and 6 months later, Rocinante guzzles sake in solace. The frustration grows inside him. He reflects on how Law must feel. He understands tragedy glued itself to Law since birth, and this journey bore no fruit, but in fact, forced Law to relive his trauma over and over again. He asks himself, did I do it for the sake of the D? But he doesn't really give a shit about that. Actually, what he cares about is Law. That's it. And there's a beauty in that. He feels Law's suffering. He understands Law as a person because he understands and accepts him. Doflamingo and Rocinante Don Quixote survive unimaginable childhood trauma. Their differing responses to this trauma changes the next generation. Rocinante learned to eventually love another person, his enemy, and Doflamingo chose to sow chaos and pain into the world while using people who care for him as if they were merely rungs on a ladder leading to greater power. Love and empathy emerged from Rocinante's pain, and he was able to transform Law from a Doflamingo-esque level of hatred to someone who embraces love and family. Trafalgar Law goes on to form the Heart Pirates. Corazon means heart in Spanish, making the central motif in this crew love, with Rocinante's life being the inspiration for Law's life and this crew. He gave Law the profound, limitless power of love, and it changed Law forever. Actually, I want to reframe this a bit because Rocinante extended his heart to Law first, but Law loved Rocinante as well. This is an unconditional love. Love not tied with blood, but genuine, pure happiness that this other person is alive. I hope you have had unconditional true love in your life. someone who impacts you and grows you into the best version of yourself right now. And if you have not formed this type of bond, it will happen. I believe that. This is how One Piece breaks you. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I'm recording this before my daughter is born, but really any day now, she's going to be born. This video is going to be published after she's born. I'm so excited to meet her, and I'm so happy to have her in my life. And in a smaller yet very important way, I'm excited that you're in my life, that you care enough to watch something that I made. So thank you.